They said love can survive anything but not poverty. She was my everything, until her family reminded her that money matters more than love. Years later, she came back, not to apologize, but because life had finally made her feel what I once felt: broken, forgotten, and alone. This is not a revenge story. It's the story of what happens when love meets regret.
The first time Ryan saw Emily, she was standing beneath the golden lights of the university courtyard, her laughter echoing like a song that didn't belong to this world. She wore a simple white dress, holding a cup of coffee, arguing with her friends about art and politics. Ryan stood at a distance, pretending to scroll through his phone, but his heart knew something had changed. Ryan wasn't like the others who surrounded her. He didn't come from money. He worked nights at a diner to pay for college, slept barely 4 hours a day, and sent half his paycheck back home to his mother. But none of that mattered when she smiled at him for the first time. Their story began in the library. She dropped her sketchbook. He picked it up. Pages filled with drawings of faces she'd never met, faces of people lost in thought. When she looked at him that day, her brown eyes held curiosity, not judgment. "You draw beautifully," he said. "You read quietly," she teased. That was the start of everything. Days turned into weeks. They began sharing late-night coffees, secrets, and silent dreams. Emily came from a world Ryan could never imagine. Luxury cars, penthouse dinners, parents who discussed investments over champagne. But she liked the simplicity of Ryan's world. She liked that he took her to small diners and let her taste fries dipped in milkshake. One night, as they sat watching city lights from an abandoned rooftop, Emily whispered, "Do you ever think we're too different?" "Maybe," Ryan said. "But that's what makes this real." She smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. But reality has a way of catching up with dreams. The next morning, Ryan received a call from Emily, her voice trembling. "Ryan, my parents found out about us." He froze. "They said you're not right for me." "They think you're after their money." "And what do you think?" Silence, then a whisper. "I think I love you." "But I don't know if love is enough." That night, rain poured heavily outside Ryan's apartment. He waited for her call, for any sign that she'd fight for him. None came, only the storm answered. He didn't know that this was just the beginning of a love that would turn into a wound he'd carry for years. The next few days felt like walking through fog for Ryan. Every corner of the campus reminded him of her, the bench where she used to read, the cafe where she'd steal his fries, even the art room that still smelled faintly of her perfume. He tried to move on, but every heartbeat whispered her name. Then one afternoon he saw her again. Emily was standing near the parking lot, wearing a long beige coat, her hair tied back neatly. Beside her was a man in his 50s, tall, stern, and clearly wealthy. Ryan recognized him immediately from the news. Mr. Williams, Emily's father, the owner of one of the largest real estate firms in the city. Their eyes met for a brief second before her father turned to her and said something that made her lower her head. Ryan didn't hear the words, but he understood the meaning. "You're not supposed to talk to him." That night, Ryan's phone rang again. It was Emily. Her voice was soft, hesitant. "Ryan, please don't come near me for a while." "Is that what you want?" "It's what my father wants." "And what about you, Emily?" "What do you want?" There was silence, then a sigh. "I want peace." The call ended, and with it, the illusion of forever. Weeks turned into months. Ryan threw himself into work, ignoring everything that reminded him of her. He started taking double shifts at the diner, saving for a future that suddenly felt meaningless. But fate has a cruel sense of humor. One evening, while delivering food to a private business event downtown, Ryan saw Emily again in a shimmering silver dress, standing beside a young man in an expensive suit. The man held her waist confidently as photographers clicked. A smile curved her lips, but her eyes looked empty. A co-worker whispered beside him, "That's Emily Williams, right?" "Heard she's engaged to Richard Cole, her father's business partner's son." "Richest young CEO in the city. Ryan stood frozen, the tray trembling in his hands. He didn't go home that night. He walked for hours under the city lights, the same streets where they once laughed together. Every billboard and luxury car reminded him of what he could never give her. Later that night, he stood on the same rooftop where they once dreamed together. The skyline glittered below, mocking him with its beauty. He whispered into the wind,
"You didn't choose him, Emily. You chose their world."
and for the first time, Ryan realized, love without courage was nothing but a dream that dies quietly. The news spread across the city like wildfire. Emily Williams was officially engaged to Richard Cole, the young CEO of Cole Enterprises. Ryan didn't need the newspapers to tell him. He already felt it in the air, like the ache that warns you of rain before the clouds arrive. He told himself he wouldn't go. He told himself he was done with her. But when one of his delivery assignments happened to be at the Imperial Grand Hotel, the same venue hosting the engagement party, fate laughed again. He walked in wearing his plain white uniform, a tray of champagne glasses balanced in his hand. The chandeliers glowed golden. The room filled with laughter, silk dresses and million-dollar smiles.
And then he saw her.
Emily looked breathtaking. Her dress shimmered like liquid silver, her hair cascading down in soft curls. But behind her smile, Ryan saw something no one else did. The pain she was hiding. Their eyes met for the first time in months. Time froze. The tray nearly slipped from his hand. Before he could look away, Richard, tall, confident, perfectly polished, wrapped his arm around her waist. "To my beautiful fiancée," Richard announced, his voice echoing through the hall.
"You're not just my partner in business, but in life."
Everyone clapped. Cameras flashed. Ryan turned to leave, but as he passed behind Emily, he heard her whisper softly under her breath, words meant for no one else.
"I'm sorry, Ryan."
He froze mid-step. For a second, everything disappeared. The lights, the people, the noise.
Only those 3 words remained.
Later that night, Ryan was cleaning up after the event. He saw Emily slip away to the balcony alone. Something inside him pushed him forward. He followed. She turned, startled.
"Ryan, you shouldn't be here. Neither should you, not if your heart's somewhere else." "You don't understand. Then make me understand." Her eyes filled with tears.
My father threatened to cut me off completely.
"My mother's sick, Ryan."
We can't afford her treatment without him.
"I didn't have a choice."
He took a step closer. "You always have a choice, Emily. You just didn't choose me." The silence that followed said more than any words ever could. She turned away, her tears falling silently into the night. Ryan stood there, watching the city lights blur through his own. "I hope your money keeps you warm," he whispered, before walking away. And this time she didn't stop him. That night became the turning point of Ryan's life. He didn't sleep. He didn't cry. Something inside him simply switched off. The next morning, he looked at his reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror. Eyes hollow.
Heart heavy, but his resolve sharp as glass.
If money was all that mattered, then I'll show them what it can't buy. Ryan quit the diner the next day. He took his savings, small but hard-earned, and joined a startup run by one of his college friends, a small app development company struggling to survive. Ryan wasn't a tech genius, but he had something better: grit. He worked 18 hours a day, sleeping on the office couch,
learning everything he could.
Months passed, and while the company grew, so did he. Every failure became a lesson, every rejection a fuel for his ambition. He stopped looking at Emily's photos, stopped replaying old memories. Instead, he began to understand something. The best revenge isn't anger, it's success. 3 years later, the boy who once washed dishes was now a man in a tailored suit, standing in front of a skyline that once mocked him. Ryan Hayes, now CEO of his own AI company, Neurotech, one of the fastest-growing firms in the city. The same city that once made him feel small now whispered his name with respect. Investors lined up to meet him.
Magazines called him the self-made millionaire.
But despite the success, the emptiness inside him never fully disappeared.
Until one night,
at a charity gala hosted by the city's elite, a familiar name appeared on the guest list. Emily Cole. She walked in, wearing an elegant black gown, diamonds around her neck, but her smile was gone. The man beside her, Richard, looked colder, sharper than before. They looked like a picture-perfect couple in a broken frame. Ryan didn't look away this time. He met her gaze across the room, steady, unreadable. The tables had turned. "Mr. Hayes," a reporter said, "you're the keynote speaker tonight, right?" Ryan smiled faintly. "Yes, let's give them something they'll never forget." As he walked up to the stage, Emily's eyes followed him, filled with the ghosts of everything they used to be. Ryan began his speech, his voice calm but cutting through the silence. "Success means nothing when it's built on lies," he said, glancing briefly at her. "Money can buy comfort, but not peace." The audience applauded, unaware of the war silently unfolding between two hearts that once beat together. For the first time, Emily looked away, and Ryan realized revenge didn't heal. It only reminded him of the wound. Emily sat alone in her luxury apartment, staring at the untouched glass of wine on the table. Outside, the rain fell against the tall windows, soft, steady, familiar. It reminded her of that night years ago when Ryan had walked away in the rain, leaving her standing on the rooftop with a heart full of guilt. Her life had everything: the cars, the mansion, the designer gowns. But happiness? That had been lost long ago. Richard, her husband, had changed. The charming man her father had approved of had become someone else entirely. Cold, controlling, and distant. The marriage was no longer love. It was a contract that chained her to a name she no longer recognized. Every argument ended with the same cruel reminder. "You chose this life, Emily. You wanted comfort. Now live with it." One evening, she scrolled through the news, and there it was, Ryan Hayes, the self-made CEO who built an empire without a family name behind him. His photo flashed across the screen, his confident smile cutting right through her chest. Her hands trembled as she whispered to herself, "You did it, Ryan. You actually did it." Memories came rushing back, his laughter, his promises, his words, the night he left her.
"I hope your money keeps you warm."
For the first time, she understood what he meant, because despite all the wealth around her, she'd never felt colder. A week later, their paths crossed again, this time not by coincidence. Emily attended a charity event for underprivileged students, one sponsored by Neurotech. When she saw Ryan across the hall, dressed in a black suit, his expression unreadable, her heart skipped a beat. She gathered the courage to walk toward him.
"Ryan," she whispered.
He turned, his eyes calm but distant.
"Emily."
There was silence, heavy, familiar.
"I saw your company's work," she said, her voice trembling.
"You've done incredible things."
"Thank you," he replied coldly.
"It's easier to build machines than fix broken people." The words hit her like a blade.
"I never stopped thinking about you," she confessed quietly.
"You had years to say that," he replied, turning away. "Now it's just noise." Tears welled in her eyes.
"Ryan, please. I made mistakes, but I—" "No," he interrupted, his tone sharp.
"You made choices." He walked away, leaving her standing there, shattered once again. But what he didn't see was the small tremor in her hand, the sign of someone breaking from the inside. That night, Emily finally admitted the truth to herself. She didn't just lose Ryan because of her family's greed. She lost herself. The cracks in Emily's life had started small arguments, silence, sleepless nights. But soon those cracks became earthquakes. Richard's company, the empire her father helped him build, was under investigation for financial fraud. The news spread fast, splashing across every major network.
"Coal Enterprises under federal scrutiny," the headlines screamed.
Investors withdrew.
Shares plummeted.
Her father's fortune began to crumble with it. The mansion that once hosted elegant parties now echoed with shouting. Emily's father accused Richard of greed. Richard accused him of betrayal. Her mother's health deteriorated again under the stress.
And Emily?
She stood in the middle of it, all the woman who had traded love for stability, now watching both fall apart. One evening, she found Richard sitting in his study, the smell of whiskey filling the air. "You lied to me," she said softly.
No, Emily, he replied with a cruel smirk.
I just played the same game your father taught me: power, deals, manipulation. You used me.
Everyone uses someone.
His words shattered whatever illusion she had left. When she turned to leave, he threw his glass against the wall.
Don't walk away from me, he roared.
You already lost me, she whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. That night, Emily packed her things. For the first time in years, she didn't care about what her family thought or what society whispered. She just wanted freedom. Days later, a quiet rumor began circulating. Ryan Hayes's company had been approached to buy out certain divisions of coal enterprises. Fate had come full circle. When Emily heard about it, her heart stopped.
He's going to destroy us, her father muttered bitterly.
No, Emily said quietly. He's not destroying you.
You did that yourself.
The next morning, she stood outside Neurotech Tower, the glass building that bore Ryan's name. Rain drizzled over the city, just like that first night he walked away. She hesitated before stepping inside, clutching her umbrella like a shield. The receptionist recognized her instantly, surprise flashing across her face. Do you have an appointment, ma'am? No, Emily said softly.
But tell him. Tell Ryan Williams wants to apologize.
When Ryan finally walked into the conference room, he looked different, calm, collected, untouchable. She, on the other hand, looked tired, fragile, and drenched with regret.
You shouldn't be here, he said quietly.
Maybe not, she replied, but I had to see you before everything I once had disappears. He sat across from her. Silence stretched between them, heavy with
years of unspoken words. You
came for your father's business? He asked.
No, she whispered.
I came for my peace. Ryan leaned back, studying her face. The woman before him wasn't the same Emily he once knew. She wasn't perfect. She wasn't untouchable. She was human again. For the first time in years, he saw not the betrayal, but the regret. Before leaving, she looked at him one last time. If you hate me, I understand, she said softly. But please don't become like them. Ryan didn't reply. He simply turned away as she walked out, a ghost from a past he thought he'd buried. Outside, the rain finally stopped. The following weeks turned the city into chaos. News headlines, bankruptcies, lawsuits, and silence from the powerful Cole family. Their empire had collapsed just as Ryan predicted it would. For Emily, the fall didn't hurt as much as the emptiness that followed. Her father stopped speaking to her. Her husband vanished after signing divorce papers.
Her home was gone.
For the first time, she lived in a small apartment. No servants,
no luxury, no noise.
Just the hum of an old refrigerator and the ache of what she'd lost. And every morning, when she looked in the mirror, she whispered the same thing. You did this to yourself? But beneath the guilt, something else was growing. Clarity. For years, she had been someone's daughter.
Someone's wife, someone's mistake.
Now, for the first time, she wanted to be herself. One cold evening, Emily walked through the park where she and Ryan had shared coffee years ago. The same bench, the same wind, only this time no laughter, until she heard a familiar voice behind her. You still come here? Her breath caught. Ryan stood there, dressed simply, his expression calm but unreadable.
I didn't think you'd ever speak to me again, she said quietly. I didn't plan to, he replied.
But time changes things. They sat in silence, watching the leaves fall.
You look different, he finally said.
Losing everything will do that to a person, she said with a faint smile. You didn't lose everything, he murmured. You found yourself. She turned toward him, eyes full of tears. Ryan, I never meant to hurt you.
I was scared. My father, of being poor, of failing.
You offered love, but I chose security.
And I regret it every single day.
Ryan didn't answer right away. He just stared at the ground, memories flashing like ghosts between them. The laughter, the betrayal, the silence.
Finally, he said, I hated you for a long time.
But I also prayed for you. I wanted you to learn what love truly means, not control.
Not comfort, but honesty.
She bit her lip, trembling.
Do you think we could ever start again?
He looked at her, long and hard. And softly he said, No, not where we left off. But maybe somewhere new. Weeks later, Ryan invited her to a charity event his company hosted to support young entrepreneurs who'd lost everything. Emily volunteered there, quietly helping others start over. She wasn't Emily Cole anymore. She signed her name Emily Hayes. Their paths crossed often, in meetings, in late-night conversations, in small smiles. There was no grand confession.
No cinematic kiss, just the slow rebuilding of trust, one glance at a time. Months passed.
One spring morning, Ryan found a small note on his desk. It said, "Sometimes love doesn't die. It just waits for us to grow enough to deserve it. Emily." He smiled for the first time in a long time. That evening, he found her at the park again, same bench, same sunset. This time, when she looked up, he didn't hesitate. He sat beside her, took her hand and said, "Let's stop running from what was meant to be." She didn't reply. She just leaned her head on his shoulder.
No promises, no forever.
Just peace, the kind they had both been searching for.